This is the Red Podcast.
This is episode number 78. We're going to talk about how to pitch your business to family and friends. If you've ever known anybody who's been involved in network marketing, multi-level marketing, that's what not to do. We're going to show you how to do it right. And this is for all businesses, not just network marketing businesses. That's coming up on this episode of the Red Podcast.
This is the Red Podcast. Real entrepreneur development. Make more money, work less, and live a life of freedom. No BS advice that really works. Here's your hosts, David Hooper and Laurel Staples.
Yesterday, I was taking the dog out for his afternoon, we'll call it exercise, walk. Had him in my left hand, had his leash in my left hand. As I was opening the door, then closing the door with my right hand. Then I was going to transfer the leash to my right hand. But as soon as he got out of the house, bolts down the stairs and just takes off without me connected to him.
That's a problem, especially since our dog is totally 100% blind.
It was scary as hell. His name is Samba, and I was like, Samba! Just started going. I don't know how he figured this out. I guess he was smelling this other dog, but there was a dog across the street, probably a good 150 feet away. I don't think it barked, and Samba just took off for him.
We're lucky he ran into a bush before he ran into the street, because with a blind dog running around the neighborhood, you just don't know what's going to happen there.
Scary as hell. Gave me a good shock, and we're cool now. The dog and I are cool now, but I'm going to use this forum kind of like Bob Barker used to do on Price is Right, telling you to get your dog spayed and neutered. Hold on to your dog. You never know when those guys are going to get loose, and the house wouldn't be the same without him. Red would not be the same.
It's very true. Well, you were pretty freaked out, I have to say. I was out the door in a second to help you, but fortunately by then the dog had run into a bush.
So hold on to your dog. 2 hands, man.
Hold on to your blind dogs.
Especially if he's blind. But that's pretty amazing. He does get around really, really well. We were worried when he went blind. That happened about, a year and a half ago?
About a
year and a half ago, and we were devastated. It was scary, but he seems to have made it happen. But a dog's sense of smell 1,000 times greater than a human.
Wow.
You can smell dogs across the way.
Apparently he did, but he's all fine now. He's happy.
The other dog's owner thought our dog was attacking, and I was like, sorry, man, sorry. And I was trying to explain. I was like, oh, now I see what's happening. But anyway, this is the Red Podcast. Red stands for Real Entrepreneur Development. We help you build an audience, sell more products, and make more money. And we do that with what I call personality marketing. We bring your personality and the personality of your products to the forefront, making you famous within your industry and beyond. Laurel, Project X, the business formerly known as Project X, now known as Love Your Face. It's going on Kickstarter. If you're interested in finding more information about that, it's lyface.com/Kickstarter. You're right at the very beginning of this. It's been up less than a week, and you're having to approach people.
Well, yeah, I think that's the hardest part, is to climb that hill with Kickstarter. You got to start with the people you know. And for me, it's been challenging to reach out to everybody that I know saying, hey, this is what I'm doing. But it's exciting at the same time.
Going through that experience, trying to get Project X, Love Your Face, off to a great start, kind of queued up some bad memories of people who've been in multi-level marketing, and all our friends who've had businesses and our own businesses talking to people when they're just not interested. This is a common entrepreneurial problem. Your friends don't care about your business, and you will annoy them if you talk about it too much, especially if you try to get them involved. That's the fear that we all have. Yet at the same time, as you just said, Laurel, when you're starting something, sometimes your friends are all you've got.
Exactly. When you're starting something new, whether it's a new Kickstarter project like mine, or you're starting a completely new business, the first people you want to tell about and that you have to tell about are your friends and family members. But what you don't want to do is annoy anyone or piss anyone off by trying to sell to those kind of people, because they might not be your target market, and they probably aren't. So how do you find that balance between sharing what you do but not annoying the people closest to you?
Let's talk about what not to do. I know you've had to have had an experience with a multi-level network marketer trying to get you involved in one of his schemes.
Oh, yeah, so many.
Tell me one.
One of the ones I had, this was not with a friend of mine. I've had friends approach me to try to get me in their multi-level businesses.
Well, everybody's a friend when you're in multi-level marketing. They're going to approach anybody.
That's true. When I was doing health coaching years ago, I had this woman call me, and she said her daughter, who was in high school, was struggling with knowing what to eat and making healthy choices. And so she booked an appointment to come in with her daughter. That was great. What I found out was that when they got there, her daughter did not want to be there. She did not want to be talking to me. She was not happy about it. And so the mother came back in the room, and it was clear that the daughter was just having the worst time. And the mother started pitching me on this multi-level Juice Plus type pill thing. And I'm just sitting there kind of floored that this whole thing is going on. So what's happened is she's booked an appointment so she can pitch me on her multi-level thing.
So she's using her daughter as a pawn to get to you.
Exactly. And I think her daughter knew exactly what was going on from the beginning, and I just didn't. So I'm trying to sit there asking her questions, and everyone's time is being wasted. And eventually I just have to ask them to leave. It was pretty bad.
See, I had something in college, actually. I was living in Memphis, going to University of Memphis, and I had a friend of mine from Nashville. I'd been in a band with him, and he said, hey, I've got somebody I think you want to meet. I said, all right. Coming down to Memphis, he's in Nashville, and I arranged to meet with this guy at a McDonald's. I was living about 200 feet from a McDonald's. We said, all right, we'll just meet over there and grab a burger. It sounds so weird to say that because I've been vegetarian for 17 years.
It's been a while.
It's been a while since I've even set foot into McDonald's, let alone grab a burger. But anyway.
A cruelty.
We made a decision to meet at McDonald's, and the burger was probably the best part of it because this guy, he set me down, and he's driving a Cadillac, nice brand new Cadillac, and he's telling me about all the money he's making. And then he says, probably about 15 minutes in, and the way we do it, it's a company called Amway. And I told my roommate before I went to this meeting, he said, oh man, that sounds like Amway. My father lost a ton of money on that thing. And if it is Amway, you need to stand up, leave right away. And when this guy said Amway, I go, did you just say Amway? He said, yes. I stood up and I just walked right out, man, because I didn't know what to do. And it was probably a good decision in hindsight because a lot of money has been lost on Amway. A lot of money has been made. But I guess what we're talking about here is not that, but the pitch. This is a random guy that I didn't even know. He had gone through a guy that I had been in a band with a year or two prior to that. And they're just going to pitch anybody. Drove 2.5, 3 hours to get to me.
It's almost like they're burning bridges before they even get to know you. So you can imagine if you use these similar approaches with your friends and family who actually like you, and you're burning bridges with them. You just don't want to do that. You don't want to take that Amway approach at McDonald's.
I think it also is very, very difficult when you mix money and friendship, or business and friendship. And you know how that is, Laurel. We've talked about that here with our partnership episodes. We've done entire episodes on how to have a good business partnership. But things can really go downhill when you ask your friends or your family to invest money in something when they're going to lose it all.
Well, they might not lose it all, but you don't know that.
Well, they might not.
It.
Well, but we've talked about this before. The risk. There's risk involved. This is not a guaranteed thing. This isn't like put it in the bank and it's guaranteed to go up in a savings account. This is a big, big risk.
One of my friends signed up for a multi-level marketing travel business that two of her friends wanted her to sign up for. And her two friends had had lots of success with this particular company. They had the cars to prove it. They had all kinds of money coming in from this company. So they got her to sign up. And of course, it just wasn't her thing. It wasn't working for her. And when I was talking to her about it, she really wanted to get out of this deal. She just wanted to pay the money and be done. But she was so worried that these two girls would be mad at her and not like her after this. And I was like, that is probably pretty ridiculous. You know, they're probably going to like you just fine. They don't really care. But I think it does put strains on a friendship that you wouldn't necessarily think about when money gets involved and when these businesses get involved, you don't want to let your friends and family members down when it just turns out not to be for you. It ended up taking her a couple months to approach them and say, look, this isn't for me. And they were fine with it, but she went through a lot of stress to get to that point.
This episode, it's about how to pitch your business to friends. It's nothing to do with multi-level marketing. The only reason we're talking about multi-level network marketing stuff is because those guys do it all wrong. These are examples of what you don't want to do. But even if your business isn't a network marketing business, the reality is it's not that different. You actually care about the product. Yes. You put your heart and your soul into this thing. Yes. Your friends want you to succeed. Yes. But do they want to be involved? Probably not.
I think the problem is that you start this business, you put your heart and soul into it, and it's really interesting and engaging to you. And that's not necessarily true for your friends and family members. And that's something to keep in mind, that just because you think it's a moneymaker and it's amazing for you to do and work on doesn't mean anybody else really cares.
Just because you're involved does not make it interesting. And the reality is your friends cannot help you. I'll give you an example. I've seen this happen a lot in the music business. When a band is starting, the first thing that they do to try to fill a venue, even if it's just a small coffee shop, they're going to ask their family, they're going to ask their friends. And what happens is they start things off with a bang. They're filling the small venue, they go to the medium-sized venue, fill that up, and they keep growing, but then everything stalls. And the reason for that is your friends are only going to support you so much. They're going to throw you a bone. They're going to come to one gig, maybe 2 gigs on something like Kickstarter. Yeah, they might give you $10, $15, maybe $100, but they're not that interested. They're only involved because you're involved and because they like you. So getting your friends involved, whether you are in a band and you've got a gig that you want them to come to, or whether you're raising money on Kickstarter and you want them to donate, contribute to that campaign, it doesn't really show whether or not you have a viable product. It can make you think you have one because money's coming in or because people are there, but it also can cause you, because of that, not to go outside that circle. You're just burning out that circle, and eventually they're going to fade away. You really need to be like a cigarette company. Cigarette companies are always getting new people in, getting those younger smokers to start up because the old people are dying off. And,
that's so horrible, David.
Well, like a cigarette company, though, you're burning through people very quickly as well.
Your friends and family, you're killing them off. Burning those bridges.
A slow, painful death, just like cigarettes. No, but seriously, that's exactly what's happening. It doesn't take several years, though. It can take months, maybe even weeks.
That's something that we said before we launched this Kickstarter campaign was it's really, really great to get support from our friends and family. We definitely reached out to them, and that's really important to us. But it does give you a false sense of accomplishment, and we do want to see if this product is viable in the marketplace. And if just all our friends and family donate, it doesn't prove anything to us. So you do have to get really good at marketing and actually finding your target market and your specific niche market who does care about your business. And friends and family can help you kind of push that boulder up the hill a little bit, but they're not what's going to take you to the top and make your company successful. So you don't want them there pushing you all the way up.
This happens any number of ways in business. I see it happen a lot when a company will get venture capital or some kind of funding, and you think, oh, yeah, I've made it. Just because they're flying around the country, just because you're able to stay in a nice hotel right now, but you're not actually bringing in money. It's the same thing. No matter where you get the money from, if it's angel investor, venture capital, or your family or friends, it doesn't necessarily mean that you've got a viable product. And you really want to fail fast because you want to get going on something that works as soon as possible. So in a lot of ways, having success with friends and family, and we've talked about this, success is a very, very lousy teacher. In a lot of ways, that's the worst thing that can happen to you. On a related note, don't use your professional connections. If you're working a day job, that is an awful place to try to go and get excitement generated for whatever you're doing, whether it's crowdfunding or something away from your day job, because that puts people in a really, really sticky situation. Example, we've talked about Toastmasters in here, Laurel, and you and I have been a member for some time now, we have an email list of probably, let's say 40, 50 people in our club.
Yeah, that sounds right.
So we could go directly to them and try to launch Love Your Face. It would be very easy, and it can feel like you're working. And all these people are, let's call them white collar. They're making money. They're very successful. They're success oriented. And they, in some ways, would want to hear about what you're doing and be interested. But it also kind of puts you in a really weird position to get that email, because then what are they going to do?
I mostly agree with that advice. I think you can let your professional connections know what you're doing, but not pitch them on what you're doing. And I think there's a distinction there. I think people like to stay up to date with what's going on, especially if they like you and you're friends with them at work or you're friends with them in a professional environment. So I think saying, hey, this is what I'm doing, but you don't have to ask anything. And if someone finds what you're doing interesting, they want to get involved, they're going to come to you. They're going to figure out a way to help you or to get involved. So make that distinction there with your professional connections.
Okay, let me clarify this. What I'm saying is do not send a blanket email or a blanket contact. Send a memorandum or distribute flyers at a meeting or something like that when you've got a new product, a Kickstarter campaign, or whatever it is that you're doing. It could be even this podcast. We're not going to do, hey guys, we just launched this new podcast, everybody tune in. That's not the purpose of the group. And let me give you an example of this. This happened over the last presidential election, and it happened in a very conservative county outside of Nashville, Tennessee, Williamson County, Franklin, Tennessee. You've probably heard some podcasts generated from Franklin, Tennessee. A lot of people come from that area. Very conservative and highly Republican. It's definitely a red county. So there's a coach, like a kid's soccer coach. He has a list of all the parents, everybody who's playing soccer. He's also a wannabe songwriter, and he came up with a country song, very, very conservative, makes fun of Obama, makes fun of government. It's very, very politically charged. He sent this thing to everybody who was involved with the soccer team that he was coaching. And it wasn't just because it was political, although he would have argued that, oh, you just don't like my politics. You don't like my politics. It wasn't that. It was a very conservative group. They probably were really into the philosophy of what this song was about. But he was pitching them to try to get them to buy his record, to go play his video on YouTube, and it had nothing to do with soccer. That's what I'm talking about, and that's how to isolate everybody.
You definitely don't want to abuse a list that you don't own. For instance, David, you mentioned Toastmasters. I do not want to abuse that list of Toastmasters and send out any sort of mass email or even use that as a way to reach out to individuals on that list, because it's not my list. I do not have permission to be emailing those people all the time. And I think that's what you're trying to say is don't abuse those lists. Just because you have people's emails doesn't mean you have permission to email them.
So let's talk about the best way to pitch a brand new product that you have. I think that this is great for multi-level people. You mentioned you had somebody that you knew. She's in a multi-level company. She's driving the car. She's being very successful. That is going to sell it itself. For example, if you're in the pants business, wearing the pants and showing that the pants work and what quality they are, that's going to sell it itself. I think just being the example, that's the best way to do it. You don't have to turn it up even higher to get people to get interested. Just be that person and wear the product, use the product.
That's the thing, and that's what I was saying is if you are excited about what you're doing and you tell people about what you're doing, you don't have to pitch them. You just have to show your excitement. You have to show that what you have has a lot of value, and you're going to attract the people that actually care about what you're doing and not force anyone to spend money with you or care about what you're doing, because that doesn't work and you can't do it.
Yeah, I think people are very curious when they see that you got a smile on your face, for example. They say, something's changed about you. What is it that you're doing? And there's your opportunity. You don't have to knock down their door and force them to look at your sales message or force them to watch a video with you or force them to get on a monthly program where you're going to bill them forever to send them some pills, potions, and lotions.
I think at the same time, you do want to be in the driver's seat of your business, and you do want to be active at marketing it and reaching out to people and all of those things. But You just need to be marketing to the people that are actually in your target market. That's the difference.
Well, one way to do that is if you do know somebody, you've got a professional connection, you can go to that person and ask for referrals, because that puts them in the driver's seat. That makes them the expert. Like, hey, I've got this house I need to sell. Do you know anybody that would be good to sell my house for me? We get requests for referrals like that all the time. And you can do the same thing with your business. Laurel could say, hey, I've got this new skincare line. It's called Love Your Face. Do you know anybody in that business, maybe any salons that would be interested in stocking this? You're not asking for something directly from this person, just a referral.
That's a good way to break the ice, too.
Oh, yeah, because they might say, well, hey, I could use some of that.
Exactly. So you're telling them about it without shoving it down their throat.
I think really you have to get good at marketing in general, and that's really what Red Podcast is about. We've got tons of episodes at redpodcast.com that talk about marketing and direct sales and how to get attention for your product. That's what this is about. It's not forcing what it is that you do down somebody's throat. It's saying, hey, this is great, and I'm on track with this, and inviting them to come along on the ride with you.
Exactly. You want to be a magnet for your ideal clients and customers. You don't want to be going out there trying to shout out with a megaphone. And there's a big difference there, I feel like.
Oh, yeah. You know, going to different shows here in Nashville, the Buckle of the Bible Belt, different events. I was even at a Billy Graham event one time, and there are people that are protesting the event. So imagine this. It's a stadium with 40, 50,000 people, and there's somebody out there telling you, hey, turn around. You're going to hell. Billy Graham is Satan. Don't listen to anything he's saying. Well, that's not a very effective message, and that's what a lot of people are doing, even if it's not that extreme. You've got to walk along with them. Don't just stand in their way telling them what they're doing is wrong and that you've got a better solution. Allow them to come on board with what you're doing.
I think the final thought here is to get really good at marketing. And understand that your friends and family members, they're not really marketing. They're kind of like the icing on the cake.
If you've got questions or comments, you want to run an idea by us, we're available online at redpodcast.com. You'll find old episodes there. You'll be able to get in touch with us directly. We're happy to answer any questions that you have or take suggestions for future Red Podcast episodes. You can help us build a community by telling your friends about Red Podcasts. Also, if you'll go to iTunes, search for Real Entrepreneur Development. If you'll leave us a review there, that will help us to come up more frequently on iTunes. We'll reach more people that way and build the Real Entrepreneur Development community. Thanks so much for listening. We'll see you on the next episode of the Red Podcast.
You've been listening to Red Podcast, Real Entrepreneur Development. Subscribe today using iTunes, Stitcher, or via RSS at redpodcast.com.